there's speculation about the Falcons possibly trading Kyle Pitts this season. And as much as I wanted to jump on this as a Saints fan, hearing it from Falcons fans all the time, all through the season, as much as I didn't like the Kyle Pitts pick, as much as I dragged the Falcons for the way that they draft players, as much as I want to get into all that as a petty Saints fan, I'm actually going to give the Atlanta Falcons some slack on this one. We know what Kyle Pitts' rookie season was: 68 catches on 110 targets, little over 1,000 yards, which was, of course, the most tight end receiving yards ever by a rookie, 15 yards per catch, but only one touchdown. So there was, realistically no complaints for Kyle Pitts outside of really no end zone action. Kyle Pitts in 2022, he played 10 games. He tore his MCL. Surgery put him out for the 2022 year, but he had 28 catches on 59 targets for 356 yards, two touchdowns. So per game, he was averaging 3 catches on 6 targets for 36 yards, 11.2 yards per catch, on pace for a 51 catch for 102 targets, 51 catches, 612 yards, anywhere from 3 to 4 touchdowns in 2022. Last year when he went out with the injury. This year, so far, Kyle Pitts has 32 targets for 18 catches, 208 yards, 11.6 yards per catch, excuse me. No touchdowns in 5 games. His per game average right now is 4 catches on 6 targets for 42 yards, 10.5 yards per catch. He's on pace for 68 catches on 102 targets for 714 yards and no touchdowns. So when you look at his rookie year and you look at his third year, you can even weigh in his second year if you want to. This third year that is unfolding, yes, we know Kyle Pitts needs to be fed more, but I don't think this is a bad year outside of touchdowns for a guy that's coming off of an MCL injury, a guy that's quick, very agile, obviously a big bodied guy, good bit of weight on him in the NFL, one of the bigger players, even though he might look kind of slim on the field. We saw his, draft prospect profile coming in. And that's why the Falcons fell in love with him, because of how big he was able to move at that size and still use that speed and still be very athletic. And all the hoopla right now, right, is Kyle Pitts has 3 career touchdowns. Sam Laporta was drafted this year and already has 3 touchdowns in 5 games. Devon Achane, who unfortunately just went on IR for the Dolphins, already has 7 total touchdowns and was just drafted this year as a running back. And maybe we can have the conversation of running backs do get more touches and get more into the end zone more than tight ends, which is a given. But when you look at Devon Achane was the 84th overall pick in the NFL draft. Sam Laporta was drafted after Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is the highest drafted tight end ever. And with the way that the Falcons coach, with the way the Falcons have been the last couple of years, and any sort of slip up or misuse, you're going to have these type of speculations and these type of rumors of if the Atlanta Falcons should actually trade Kyle Pitts this season, whether it's this season, next season, who knows what the case could be. We know Kyle Pitts isn't getting used like he should. But I'll tell you, I don't think Kyle Pitts is fully healthy. Arthur Smith has already told us a couple weeks back he doesn't think that Kyle Pitts is fully healthy. Now, he does go out in the Texans game and have a very good football game, the best outing of the year. But we know that the coaching is also an issue with this team, with the usage of this team. The Falcons are a run first and a run second football team. That's exactly why they drafted Bijan Robinson, which was another pick I did not really care for. But we know if we're talking about where could the Falcons trade Kyle Pitts, they could trade Kyle Pitts anywhere. I mean, what team in the NFL, in the league, would not like a guy like Kyle Pitts? I mean, anybody would take him. Name a team. They'll take him. The Chiefs would take him. The Bills might even take him and make him a wide receiver with Dalton Kincaid being at the tight end position. I believe Kyle Pitts should be moved to a wide receiver position. He runs like it, he's built like it, and he can play like it. He lined up a lot in the slot at his Florida days. So I would love to see Kyle Pitts be a slot guy a lot more times than not, and maybe even permanently move to that wide receiver role. I know that might not be in the cards for him for what other teams are seeing possibly in his skill set, but just from the eye test, I think Kyle Pitts could be a very good wide receiver 1, or if not, wide receiver 2 in this NFL. We know what Kyle Pitts was coming out of college. He was arguably the best player and the best receiver in the draft behind Trevor Lawrence and possibly Justin Fields, depending on how you feel about him. But we know the 5th-year option is also coming up for Kyle Pitts to be decided on after this year, and this applies more pressure to the Falcons. I do think the Falcons, will pick up his 5th-year option because overall he has played solid through the first 3 seasons. We know he went out with an injury in the second one, but he had a historic rookie season, so we have to give him that credit. I do think Atlanta will pick it up, but we could see him get moved for the right price at the right time, depending on what his usage is over the next, 20 games or so. I still think Kyle Pitts should get the rest of this season and at least half of next season in order to prove himself, or at least for Atlanta to prove that they can use him right before people actually start making legit calls on Kyle Pitts. Because with him being a fourth overall pick, Atlanta's going to want at least a first rounder for him, maybe two. I believe Pitts is worth that, but some teams could speculate that he's not, depending on how he's played so far in his NFL career. But I am going to give the Falcons some slack on Kyle Pitts' career so far. Some people say he's wasting away, he's rotting away. I don't believe that's the case. And again, y'all, I'm a petty Saints fan who hears it from Falcons fans all the time from everywhere. I hated the Kyle Pitts pick. I think they needed O-line much more in that season. I hated the Bijan Robinson pick. Go get a defensive lineman. I understand that they addressed it in free agency in the offseason, just like they addressed the offensive line the year that they picked Kyle Pitts. Later in the draft, in free agency, in an offseason, in the offseason as well. But seeing what the Falcons have done so far for Kyle Pitts, it's going to make people question it. I mean, when you take him that high in the draft, people are going to wonder, where is the usage? Why is he not getting implemented correctly? We know Kyle Pitts can be used a lot better. There is no question about that. I think the Falcons should give him at least the rest of this year and at least half, if not all of next year. I think they're going to pick up the fifth-year option, but before they realistically start fielding these calls, I think the Falcons deserve some slack for right now. And I know it's easy to want to dig into them because of the way players have been used in the past and the way that they've been drafted in the past and overall how they've played in the past with their coaching ever since the Super Bowl year. They just now this season got above 500 for the first time in years. Falcons fans, I want to hear from you in the chat and in the comments. Should Kyle Pitts get traded this year? Should the Falcons consider trading Kyle Pitts at all? How much more time do you think he needs?